everyone. Welcome to a special NBA episode here on the Outlaw Nation channel for Game Time. This is an NBA Finals preview, and I managed to wrangle one of the busiest guys I know, and you guys know him as my co-host on the Top 10 show, but you love him because he knows all things about basketball, host of Dropping Dimes. My man, Matt Knost. How are you, bro?
I'm good. I'm excited for tomorrow. It should be, and actually, I think it has a chance of being a genuinely good finals. I don't think it's going to be a runaway for the Lakers. As if you listen to talk radio here in LA, it's Lakers in 5 and they're being kind with the 5.
Right.
Like, okay. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, nobody expected the Miami Heat to come into this finals. They're the first number 5 seed to come into this final since I think the Knicks did it way back when in 1999. So pretty incredible stuff. I guess I'd never known that statistic because it always seems like some crazy team is always kind of finding its way into the finals, but I guess not. They're the first 5 seed that's done so. Have you been surprised at their run here? I mean, they've only lost 3 games, just like the Lakers have only lost 3 games on the way to the finals.
It's been, really impressive to watch. When you go back and look at the stats between them and the Celtics, technically the Celtics outscored them in that series. It's by 0.2 of a point. It's not much, but when you look at all the stats, they're all basically even, save for turnovers. The Celtics average 3 more turnovers a game. Yeah. And the Lakers thus far in the playoffs have averaged 4 more than what the Heat have done. The Heat are what they're known for. They've got discipline. They played solid defense, and you never know exactly who's going to step up because they have 6 players averaging double figures in the playoffs so far, whereas the Lakers have 3, and Kuzma is one of those at 10.5 points. KCP's at 9.9, but it's basically LeBron and AD. It's the same thing I've been saying the entire playoff run for the Lakers. You take away their top 2, who is going to step up? I don't know. It's a game-by-game kind of scenario, whereas with the Heat, it's just like, well, you're going to get 20 from Bam. You're going to get 20 from Goran. You're going to get 20 from Jimmy. You're going to get, now 19 potentially from Tyler Herro, and then another 12-ish from Duncan Robinson. It's like, that's pretty fucking potent.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we bury the lead, we should say that it's LeBron James and Anthony Davis versus Jimmy Buckets and an assorted cast of I don't want to say glorified role players, but guys who have found their talent and their skill and chemistry together under Jimmy Buckets. But I don't even feel like Jimmy Buckets is the alpha dog necessarily of this team. He doesn't feel like the LeBron of this team. Am I wrong on this, Matt? It feels like they're the 2005 Pistons, where you have 5 really good players that somehow just have a cohesive chemistry, and you don't know who's going to take over from night to night.
A lot of people have made that comparison. Okay. Well, the first that I saw, and it's a good comparison, solid on your part, was JJ Redick saying, this gives me basically belief in basketball again, that you don't need to go out and create a super team, that you can build it from the ground up type of thing. Right. And it was the stark contrast between the Heat and the Celtics in the last round is their top 5 guys on each. In the Celtics, they were all drafted in the top 10 or higher. Right. Whereas the Heat, nobody was drafted above in the top 10. Wow. So it's these 2 stark, Butler was a project that the Bulls took on, they never envisioned him being this. That's why they let him, that's why they got rid of him. Yeah. Ultimately when he just wanted too much money. But I do think Jimmy is an alpha in that. So my belief with the playoffs is you need somebody when, it's late in a game. You need somebody that can just go out and get you a bucket. It's what you need. And Jimmy thrives in those instances. He doesn't shoot threes until it's a high leverage moment in the fourth quarter. And then he shoots 2 of 2 for the game because he only shot 2 late in the fourth quarter. It's what you want from Russell Westbrook, where it's just like, dude, don't shoot threes, drive, make the defense collapse, kick out, and be lethal in other ways. And Jimmy does that. He knows that he doesn't need to be the catalyst for the offense because they have so many other options. And if he gets other guys going, as been proven out with this playoff run, that's fine. They can defer to him late. And I do view him as an alpha in that the entire team defers to him. Okay. Yeah. So like after each, impressive performance by any of the Heat players, everyone to a person has said, I did that for Jimmy. Yeah. And he is, the heart and soul and the bulldog mentality that Pat Riley seeks out or for any kind of free agent acquisition, and fits the Heat culture. It's the perfect marriage. So it's super interesting, this matchup.
It seems to be that he's finally found a team that understands how to employ him, and that also understands the focus to win is so powerful in Miami. From Riley to Spoelstra, down to the players, it has always been that culture since Dwayne Wade was there and took them to a title. And then when LeBron came on and took them to another two titles, and then you have here what he's done, what Spoelstra's done after LeBron has left. He's been able to get this Heat team into the playoffs as well, and now this team into the finals. So you got to give a lot of credit here to the culture of Miami Heat, as you just mentioned, that understands about bringing the right players, and those players become championship type players. Even LeBron said he had to learn how to win championships, and he did it in Miami. He likened Miami to going to college. He had to learn how to have a trade and how to be good at that trade, and certainly he did that in Miami. And now it's so ironic that LeBron, to get his 4th ring and essentially solidify himself and give even more ammunition to people who believe he could challenge Jordan to be the GOAT, he has to go through his old team. He has to go through his old coach here in Miami, the team that taught him how to win. Now he has to figure out a way to beat them. Do you find this to be such an interesting storyline for him to be having to walk through the Miami Heat to get another ring?
I guess you could, you could have spun it either way. Yes, it's interesting for the Heat, and it's also, if it was the Celtics, then his first championship run with the Lakers is against their all-time, rival in the Celtics. So either way, it was going to be a good storyline for the NBA. They just wanted the Lakers in it no matter what.
True.
They did. You have Los Angeles, which everybody loves to hate, and then you have LeBron on top of that, plus AD, like just the burgeoning star of that franchise going forward. So yeah, I think it's it's a good storyline no matter what. I think for either which way, I actually think the Celtics would have been a little bit more compelling just because of the history of the two.
Right. And also because if the Lakers had won, they'd be tying the Celtics for 17 NBA championships in their history. Beating the Celtics to tie the Celtics would have been interesting as well.
Well, yeah. And then the Celtics bone of contention of you shouldn't count the Minneapolis Lakers or the Minnesota Lakers, because that shit doesn't count. Right. And I don't think anybody really cares outside of Boston Celtics fans. It's not so huge a difference as it would be with other teams. Like the Thunder don't get to claim Seattle's championship, the lone championship.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, but they also didn't keep their name, and that was a completely different situation. That team was in essence stolen by Oklahoma City. And, they've proven out to be good fans. So I'm not knocking OKC, but you did steal the Sonics.
Definitely.
Swearing up and down that you had no intention of moving the team. And then internal emails show you had every intention of moving the team. Kind of shitty, but what are you going to do? You got a team.
Never let those emails leak, man. They're trouble.
Yeah, they are trouble. From the president on down, you got to keep those things under lock and key.
Lock and key. But Matt, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think the key for this is the Lakers have been consistently really good on defense.
Yeah.
But, they have length like nobody's business. So you start looking at these matchups. Are the Lakers going to roll out JaVale or Dwight in their starting 5? And then is that going to force then maybe Kelly Olynyk to jump into the starting lineup, or potentially Myers Leonard? Because you could put Bam on AD, even though AD has 5 inches or so on wingspan length. They're roughly the same height, but it's so fucking long. But you have to do something with JaVale because you'll get murdered on the boards otherwise. Or do the Lakers pivot and go small and put AD at the 5 and then try and beat him that way? But they have length. That's one thing the Lakers do. So can their defense maintain? Because the Heat have more scoring threats, more potential scoring threats, in my opinion, than the Lakers do. So I think that's the real chess match. There's what the Lakers do on defense, and then what each is going to do as far as their starting rotations. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Heat are no slouch on the defensive side either, Matt. They've done really well over these playoffs with their defense and their three-point shooting. You mentioned Jimmy not taking the shots, still absolutely has to take the shots there in the end, but everyone else has seemed to step up on the three-point side of things, and Iguodala bringing that championship medal to the team as well. I would take him over Danny Green in terms of championship experience any day of the week. Iguodala just kind of settles the young guys down, and Tyler Herro is that X factor. It's like DJ Caruso. Both these guys, nobody knows. Everyone's loving it. Nobody knows what to expect. Sorry, what? Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso. Yeah, I was thinking somebody else. But yeah, I mean, look at that situation there. There's a lot of comparisons that are very similar to these teams. And I would put out there that I think this is overall the most talented team that the Lakers are facing here this entire playoffs. I know they got Harden, but Westbrook was injured for some of that series. And then you had the Blazers, but it was really Dame got hurt near the end there. And then you have the Nuggets. The Nuggets were playing well, but then Jamal got hurt. So if the Heat stay healthy, this could be the consistently most talented team they've played in the playoffs, and they'll make them earn the ring, I feel like.
Yeah, the Nuggets just suffered from the fact that they went to two game sevens. They were, that final game was 19 games for the playoffs for them. Yeah. And Jamal Murray had played up until that game 710 minutes in the playoffs so far. I mean, just a crazy amount of minutes.
That's insane. Yeah.
And they weren't at full strength with Barton? Shit, I'm blanking on his name. He was out.
Yeah, Barton.
And then Jamal Murray's health and Gary, they just got Gary Harris back, and MPJ wasn't, next year he'll be even better.
Yeah.
Like that Nuggets team is actually pretty loaded. They'll have some interesting choices to make in the offseason because they have 4 free agents. Right. Coming up, Jeremy Grant being primary amongst them.
Yeah.
That team was deep, but they did have some health issues. And I think what you brought up, the fact that the Heat and the Lakers have played both the same number of games.
Yeah.
Iguodala, he's only had one really good game thus far, and It was that closeout game. So I don't know if I trust him as of yet. But the 3-point shooting difference between the two, the disparity of Duncan Robinson could go off and hit 5 of 10 in the game pretty easily. And Tyler Herro can go 4 of 10 fairly easily. Yeah. And Jai Crowder, will he get back to what he was in the opening round and the first 2 rounds? If he does that, then Jesus, now you got 3 guys that are shooting the ball lights out from 3. And then Goran Dragic is going to be a handle for KCP and Caruso and Rondo to try and slow down. They've got some interesting matchups, but then. So if you put Bam on AD, I guess you put Butler on LeBron.
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough. You need to slow them down and then ask any other Laker to score in double digits.
Right. I mean, is there a blueprint in the Milwaukee Bucks series for the Heat to follow? How they kind of took Giannis out of that series for the most part. He got his points, but he didn't will himself to victory. He didn't carry that Bucks team to victories as strongly as he could have. Is there a blueprint there to handle Anthony Davis, what they did?
I don't know, because, the parallel would be Giannis to LeBron, but LeBron's game is more complete than Giannis's is at this point. So you can't.
So there's no comparison for AD in your opinion right now with
because
anybody.
As second fiddle to LeBron, AD is infinitely better than Middleton.
That's true.
So
very true.
Yeah, your game plan. Now, if the Heat deploy a zone defense, which completely befuddled numerous times the Celtics.
Right. Yeah.
Is that going to have the same effect on the Lakers? I have to assume not, just because LeBron his basketball IQ is through the roof. So you should be able to dissect that pretty easily. But perhaps just because they don't get thrown, zone defenses all that often.
Yeah.
Or, Spoelstra is so cagey. He also knows what LeBron is best at and what he's not. Now, LeBron is also really good at so many different things that I don't know that you can impede his ability all that much, but just ask anybody else not named LeBron and AD to do something. Just make the defense key in on them. It's like, fine, KCP, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us type of thing.
Right.
Because I don't trust Kuzma. I love that last series because anytime he was D'd up with MPJ, if MPJ scored a bucket, Kuzma, like a petulant child, would come down and force up a shot just to prove to Michael Porter Jr. that he's the better player. When I would take MPJ in a heartbeat, just his ceiling to me is much higher.
I agree.
Is he going to get into that same kind of, dick measuring contest with Tyler Herro?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Herro's going to come down. He's much more consistent scorer that, through the playoffs thus far. And it's going to take Kuzma out of it. I don't know. It's just like it's a big fat question mark after you have the supremely talented LeBron and AD as to who in the world is going to show up.
Yeah, and you've had this Heat team kind of stepping up. I mean, Dragic has jumped up in his points per game to 20.9. He was 16.2 in the regular season before the break, obviously the COVID break, and now he's up at 20.9. His shooting rates are up from the field as well, 45.2% and 44.1, and from the line, 81.4 from 77.6. Those are increases he's having there, and he's shooting around 36% from distance. So he's doing his thing here. But LeBron has been. Look, everyone's calling him a cyborg, man. This guy does not age. He's been flirting with triple doubles almost every night, dude. So you look at this Lakers team, you talk about Anthony Davis, you talk about LeBron, but you've also got playoff Rondo in here. I mean, you can't discount the fact, I know Anthony Davis hit that three, but if Rondo doesn't throw him a deft pass to put him in a position to hit that three, maybe there's a whole different situation with that Nuggets series here. Maybe they're down 2-1, the Lakers are, and we got to see how they respond after that. So this is interesting when you look at the bench players for them as well. You mentioned Danny Green, you mentioned KCP. There are other people that are roaming around on that bench that could make some difference. Well, JaVale McGee, but you've got JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, two guys who do some bonehead stuff. I mean, Howard was throwing elbows and throwing shoulders into the Nuggets here, almost getting himself teed up. So if he gets frustrated, this could cost them a game. We've seen how Draymond Green getting frustrated for the Warriors essentially almost turned that series around for the Cavaliers to win it in the finals. Yeah,
I would imagine that the Lakers were probably going to do what they did against the Rockets and sparingly use their bigs, just because the Heat's advantage is they've got shooting, so you need to be able to cover those shooters,
right?
Type of thing. It could be, maybe not. Maybe they roll out their same starting five, and it's either JaVale or Dwight, and then you have your usual suspects of LeBron, AD, KCP, and Danny Green.
Right.
I think one of the greatest advantages the Lakers have is all the championship experience between LeBron and Danny Green. Rondo's got one. J.R. Smith does as well, and he could be at the end of the bench, kind of coaching guys up, telling them how to stay. Still, though, he's won a championship.
Can't deny that.
You can't take it away. You know what's super interesting is no matter what, Dion Waiters technically could get a ring this year because he started the season with the Miami Heat.
The NBA said he is qualified, depending on if the teams approve it, to get a ring either way this goes.
It comes down to whether or not if the Heat win, they want to give Dion Waiters. I would assume no, because it ended on such a bad note. But technically, he could be guaranteed a ring out of this no matter what, which is super interesting.
That's classic Waiters Island, man. That's classic Waiters Island.
And I believe it's two teams that did not make the playoffs last year. I know the Lakers did, and I don't believe the Heat did. They just missed it.
Yeah, I think
now in the NBA Finals, which I don't believe has ever happened, which is crazy to think of. And to look at these two teams, like last year with LeBron, there was nobody else around him. They had all these young guys that they shipped out, obviously, for AD. And then on the flip side of that, the Miami Heat, they were still under the logjam of Dion Waiters' contract and Hassan Whiteside, and was this rudderless kind of, what are you guys exactly doing here?
Right.
And now they're in the championship. Like it's man, I really hope this thing goes 7.
I mean, jettison, and this is, Matt, this is something for you and me who are basketball purists. This is going to be one to just sit back and enjoy the hell out of, because it's positionless basketball. It's the coach of positionless basketball, Spoelstra, against the guy who perfected it under Spoelstra, LeBron, and carried it to Cleveland, carrying it now to the Lakers here. This is going to be so much fun to watch. And I agree with you. I hope it goes 7. I want some tight, incredible matchups throughout that really test both teams, because because people are like discounting Jimmy Butler. Yeah, Jimmy Butler has been the premier star almost everywhere he's gone on all those teams, and he has a will to win. You never discount a guy's will to win. And we've seen LeBron at times wilt in certain moments when he or give up on teams in certain moments when they don't play as hard as he's playing. We've seen him do that. And he was back to his old ways, sitting on that court with his arms folded or with his arms around his legs and the confetti fell. That's classic LeBron, trying to make it seem like it's not a big deal, but he wants the spotlight on him, showing that it's not a big deal. But I was like, I thought that was a bit too much. He didn't have to sit there and make attention for himself. But he's announcing his intention, the title or nothing. Yeah.
It's making the finals. It is a big deal in that now he's made it to 10. Super impressive. 10 in 15 years.
Mind-blowing, man.
Although, Magic made it to 9 and 12.
There you go.
That's, it's been done to some degree and in fewer years. and it's not unprecedented, but for him, like the other guys celebrating, maybe Danny Green is also like, I've been here, but the real test is to come. But LeBron knows that, and he's carried much worse teams to the finals.
Oh yeah.
But through lesser competition. I mean, this year, my bone to pick with his, previous 9 were, you ran through the East, but there was never a juggernaut really in your way. Whereas, look, that Nuggets team is legit.
Yeah, true.
That Rockets team would have given the East fits.
Yep.
That Blazers team they were the 8th seed, but they're infinitely better than Orlando and Brooklyn. Oh, yeah. Even Philly, who, got bounced super early. But it's like they beat some legitimate teams to get here, and they did it quite handily. Yeah. So he's full on earned this one. But yeah, him sitting on the court, it was definitely, as you pointed out, it was a show.
Yeah. But
I think he was right in that, yes, this is nice, but this is meaningless. The real legacy cementer is coming.
Yeah. Who do you, so let's get into the, because we got only a few more minutes left in the show. We only have you for a few more minutes. So as you look at these teams, I know I made fun of McGee and Dwight Howard possibly getting into some issues, but I mean, they've each logged over 1,000 minutes for a team that finished 1st in blocks, 3rd in defensive efficiency, and 6th in rebounding percentage. What an incredible turnaround from last year. So it's not like they're doing it in spite of these guys. These guys are contributing. So you've got both benches that have guys who can step up and contribute of various ages and experience. And then you're looking at the starting 5, or what we'd estimate are the starting 5, or predict rather are the starting 5. When you look at these teams top to bottom, do you think it's LeBron's will that'll be the difference, or will it be that AD, who has been coming into his own almost, we're seeing him grow up as a playoff player series to series? Will this be like LeBron kind of shrinking back a little bit, and AD takes over this series and really announces himself as the new alpha dog?
Well, it's still LeBron's, and I think AD fully understands that.
Okay.
And knows that LeBron is trying to transition to this being AD's team, much like the marriage between Magic and Kareem before. When Magic came in, he deferred to Kareem because Kareem was numerous time MVP. He had won a championship. This was fully his team. And over time, Kareem ceded that control, knowing that, look, if I want to continue to win, it's going to be through this young guy running the team.
Right.
And I think it's that gradual transition between the two, but it's still LeBron's at the top. I think the Lakers would be wise to try and take the ball at Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro early and often to get them into foul trouble, to get the 3-point shooters off the court as quickly as possible, because that'll nullify an advantage that the Heat have. And, so if they can do that, their defense is really good. They're super long. That is one of their best attributes. Across the board, they're starting 5. They have length, so they will clog up all the passing lanes. Yeah. And Miami's offense is much more fluid than a lot of the other teams. Like take the Nuggets, for instance. You knew that the scoring threat was going to come from 2 primary spots.
Right.
Whereas within Miami, it's going to come from, any one of 4 to 5 different positions. All these guys have the green light to shoot and shoot often.
Yeah.
So you need to basically take a few of those chess pieces off the board if you're the Lakers as best you can, and not get your 2 primary guys into any kind of foul trouble. Because if LeBron or AD have to sit for long stretches, especially LeBron, their offense slows down. Now in the playoffs with LeBron sitting, they're finally at almost even. They're right around even. Whereas before, during the regular season, when LeBron sat, their offense cratered.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have Rondo in there to help direct traffic and keep things moving. But if you can get LeBron in foul trouble, you have a very good shot of beating this team.
Okay. Who do you see the Lakers keying on here in this series? I mean, obviously you got Jimmy Buckets, but is Bam Adebayo the guy they're looking at to get into foul trouble early? He has a propensity at times to do that. Is that who they're focusing on, do you think, with their defensive game plan?
Well, yeah, early in the game, it's almost like anybody but Jimmy they need to worry about. And late in game, they need to, the primary then is going to be Jimmy. The playoffs have been any indication. I mean, he had that 40-point game against the Pacers, but it's been a while since he's gone fully off. Yeah. They haven't needed him to.
Right. Well, you got Tyler Herro hitting 37 points in a game 4. You don't need Jimmy that much.
You don't. Yeah. And he knows it too. He doesn't demand the spotlight or the ball. And like I said before, after the game, Tyler Herro said, basically, I did all of that for Jimmy. But I think the key for the Lakers would be to slow down Dragic, because Bam is great, but Bam's not going to create a lot of shots on his own. He'll get shots from 12 feet-ish, whatnot, as the defense sucks over to somebody else. Now he's wide somewhere in the middle of the key or whatnot, and just do a little floater from 10 feet or 12 feet or 15. But if they can slow down Dragic, that is the engine of their offense. And, his 20 points per game has been really huge for them.
Yeah.
But they can also sub back in Kendrick Nunn, who started 54-ish games for him in the regular season. It's not like it's a huge drop-off. Yeah, he is. It's just they went with the steady hand of a veteran. But I think if you can slow down Dragic, that will put a real wrench in the Heat's offense. So if you can get him into foul trouble and get him off, but I would still try and key on getting their three-point shooters off the court, especially Duncan Robinson. Like the Celtics, and was a game they got him into early foul trouble with 3 fouls in 3 minutes, and he had 3 points. And it was just like, boom, you take him off, and then suddenly you don't have to worry about as much on the wings.
But
yeah, Dragic would be slow the engine of this team, and the rest of the team should, it'll be more difficult for them to find their shots.
I got to ask you one last thing, and that's the the second last thing, and that's the coaching matchup here almost seems irrelevant to me. Spoelstra does get the advantage of a Frank Vogel. However, you've got LeBron James, who essentially is like having a second coach, a second head coach on the team. So does this kind of cancel each other out, or do you give the edge actually to the Lakers because they have Frank Vogel and someone like LeBron there monitoring, coaching the team?
Yeah, it's a chess match to me between one Spoelstra versus the two, like you just brought up. And having LeBron out there, he is the secondary, the de facto coach on the floor. He is the floor general. And you're right. Spoelstra does have the all-time record. He's 3-0 in playoff series against Vogel.
Yeah.
But he had LeBron during that 3-0.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's like
kind of help. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't, I think Vogel is one of, if not the best coach he's had since Spoelstra.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that Doc was, let go today from the Clippers, and Ty Lue is in the running to get the job. And I still don't know if Ty Lue is a good coach or not, because LeBron was the coach of that team. But yeah, if we're saying tit for tat, I like Spoelstra better than Vogel, but it's not like it's some wildly huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
With as with other LeBron teams, which is like, well, I'm not entirely sure how good the coach is, but LeBron sure is an excellent coach. So.
All right, prediction time, man. If you can give us a prediction, what is your feeling about this as we're on the precipice? This is coming out the morning of the first game of the finals, which will be later tonight. What's your feeling on this one? Do you think it's LeBron? Do you think it's the Lakers? Or do you feel like the Heat could pull a historic upset here?
Oh, man. I mean, I really would love to see the Heat win. For everything that JJ Redick brought up, just you don't have to go out and accumulate as many superstars as you need. And it's about drafting guys and developing guys like Duncan Robinson, who was undrafted out of a Division III school. And there's a great little story that he reached out to a writer, I believe for The Ringer 3 years ago, and was asking how to get into sports journalism.
Wow.
And now he's in the finals. Like that's Kendrick Nunn was on the Golden State's. It does. Kendrick Nunn was on Golden State's G League team last year. And now he's, a primary piece, not in the playoffs, but during the regular season. He was an all-rookie first team, and rightly so.
Yeah.
It's hard to go against the Lakers, but I am pulling for the Heat.
Okay.
My brain tells me like Lakers in 6. My heart wants to say Heat in 7.
Yeah. All right, I go with Matt Knost. My heart says Heat in 7. But my mind says Lakers in 6. There's just something about LeBron. And look, the Nuggets came in and they were down 3-1. LeBron was like, nah, we're not having that mess, and turned it up on Jamal Murray and shut it down. So you can come up with fairy tales and fantasies and fairy tale endings and Cinderellas and all of that. But when you have an indomitable force like LeBron James, all of that just kind of goes by the wayside, because his indomitable will to win kind of overcomes everything else. And I wonder if some of these Heat players, as you mentioned, who had to come up the ranks and weren't sure they would even make the NBA, will catch themselves in a little bit of awe as they're watching one of the greatest ever play basketball right on the opposite side of the court from them. So I wonder if that may affect things. And in the end, the Heat will put up a great fight. It just won't be enough by the end. That's what my head says, Lakers in 6, but my heart wants the Heat in 7 for sure.
The one advantage the Heat have is the fact that they don't have to travel to Los Angeles and play in front of a Lakers crowd, which is huge.
Great point. Yeah.
And Lakers would have had home court advantage.
Oh, yeah.
So to not have that potentially won't rattle the young guys as much, and they'll be able to you a little bit looser and a little bit freer like they've done so far through the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because you still got LeBron. This is his 10th trip. Danny Green's won, championships. They've got a bunch of people that have been there and know how to deal with the stress of the situation. So you would assume you would err on the side of that experience. But damn it if I don't want to see the Heat win.
There it is. One last thing. I know we got to get you out of here, Matt. I was going to ask about this. Doc Rivers, quickly, your assessment of that situation. It was time, wasn't it? He's just not the right coach to get you over the mountaintop. He did it once, but he's not the right guy, don't you think? His time has passed. He's
lost multiple 3-1 series now.
Yeah, 3 of them.
He accounts for 20-some-odd% of all 3-1 losses.
Wow, that's insane.
It is. Oof. According to the reports coming out, that they made the decision based upon him playing Herro more than Zubac in that last series when they wanted the size, and also the fact that he's never been willing to develop young players. He always relies on his vets, and they wanted to develop their young players a little bit more. Yeah. But when you have a team that loaded, it's kind of difficult to do that anyway. Usually Doc, though, does rely pretty much primarily on his vets. But a lot of people are basically saying they waited to see how the Lakers stacked up against this Nuggets team. And then once the Lakers closed them out and did not, with up 3-1 and didn't suffer the same fate, the writing was on the wall for Doc. I just don't know who they get at this point. It'll be interesting to see. I think their primary targets right now are Ty Lue and Jeff Van Gundy. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if Jeff Van Gundy finally leaves the announcer's booth, but I'd be surprised.
I love him calling the games, man. He brings a great analysis and a great mind to the games, more than his brother does. That's for damn sure. Do you think Doc ends up in New Orleans, or does you think he ends up in Philadelphia, or maybe even Indiana? Where do you think he ends up?
I mean, if you given those 3 options, Indiana's 3rd.
Yeah, and Oladipo talk about how he wants to leave now. So why would you go there?
For a guy that does not develop young players, he never has, go to Philly.
Yeah, right.
Because New Orleans is all about the young guys. But at the same time, he has no choice but to play the young guys in New Orleans. So it's a different situation as opposed to what he's had in the past.
True.
If I were him, I would go East, because you have a better chance still of making it through the playoffs in the East as opposed to the West, because the West is just going to be even more stacked next year. So
yeah, true. Oh, there you go. All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time, brother. I trust your basketball mind. You host Dropping Dimes. Please tell people where they can find you and everything you got going on, man.
Just hit me up at Matt Knost. I've got a show for Dropping Dimes coming out, I guess, the day that you see this. If you want to go over there and see that, it's going to be a betting angles preview of the finals. So that'll be a lot of fun. And hit me up over there. Or just follow me at Matt Knost. You can see anything and everything that I'm doing.
There you go. And you can, of course, watch us on the Top 10 show, or listen to us on the Top 10 show as well. But this is Game Time, a special NBA Finals preview episode here on the Outlaw Nation channel. Thank you all so much for watching this. Please remember to like this video and leave a comment down below. More likes, more comments elevates the visibility of this video. Also, subscribe to the channel down below for more content. We're going to do more sports content as this goes along, as the months go along. So I always appreciate when Matt has the time to step in and give us some good analysis of what's happening in the NBA. All right, thanks, you all. Take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you next time on another brand new episode of Game Time.